Hey, Edward just popped on too. It's so good to see all of you this morning. So John is actually in Las Vegas right now with a bunch of JL Success Mastermind members that are doing the handgun course at Front Sight. So that's pretty exciting. They were all at the um, restaurant last night, catching up. Glenn was there, Virginia was there. I think Daisy and her husband are there, and I forget who else. Linda Landry was out there. So lots of fun, and we'll definitely redo that trip again too. So if there's another time that anybody wants to do that trip, we'll definitely do that as well. But today, what I really wanted to talk about, I could talk about two things, and you guys tell me which one hits home more for you. One is about eliminating micro decisions out of your life, which definitely saves a lot of time. And then the other is about how do you adapt to change. So which one would really hit home for you guys? You can unmute and I'll then blab on about both of those topics or one of them. Any preference? No? Okay, good. Okay, well, let's talk about micro decisions because this actually came up for me this morning and I really thought about it in life. And especially when we work from home, we have so many freedoms working from home that people who work jobs don't have, right? So when you think about it, I'm assuming everybody here has at some point worked a job for somebody else. Is that correct? Or maybe still is, right? Okay, well, thinking back when I was a high school teacher, the decisions that I had to make in the morning were really zero because my routine was exactly the same every day because I had to show up for other people at a certain time in a certain way, prepared for the day in a certain mindset, right? So when I was a high school teacher, I would get up at 6 in the morning. I would or sometimes 5:30 in the morning. I would roll out of bed. I would do my morning exercise, take a shower, get dressed, review my lesson plans for the day, make my coffee in a travel cup, get in the car, and drive the same way every single time so that I was at the school by 7:15. Right. And then the morning bell rang at 7:40. So that gave me time to prep my classroom for whatever I needed. And I did the exact same thing every single day. And the beauty in that was that I didn't have to make any decisions about it. It was the same exact thing every single day. And when you have a routine like that, it actually does build a lot of certainty in your life and what you're doing, and it kind of relieves you for a lot of the bigger decisions that you have to make in life. Like at the time, the bigger decisions that I was making was, what house were we going to buy? What were we going to do for getting married? John and I, my daughter and I were talking about this because she's very interested in John and I's dating and stuff like that now, right? She's turning 11, so she's very curious about all of this. And, yesterday we were talking, John and I did things a little bit backwards. Like we met online, we started dating, we moved in together, we moved across the country to Arizona, we bought a house. And at that point, our families were like, what the hell? Are you guys ever going to get married? It had been like, we got engaged at like 2.5 years because John's dad gave him the diamond for my ring, right? He was like, okay, you need to nail this down, right? Like, do this. And then it was like 2 years later and we still hadn't married, but we had done like all the other stuff, like bought a house and everything else. So those were the big decisions that I was making. Then when it comes into, having your own business, there's not that same kind of urgency of having to be at the same place every time, every day, showing up for other people in a certain way. Right. So now in the morning or even during the day or in the afternoon, there can be a lot of micro decisions that are made that cost you time, cost you energy, and actually create a lot of inconsistency in your life. So let me give you an example, and why this came up for me today. So, I have several businesses. John's out of town. I also homeschool. And for us to have, and I'm pretty religious about my schedule and having balance and having time with my family and all of that. So we said, my daughter and I made a decision that, in the morning, she would be up at 7 o'clock and we would go for my morning walk together. And then we would go to the park and, do some playtime and then come home and around 8:30 set her plan for the day, because she's pretty independent with homeschool. Set her plan for the day. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm at my desk ready to work, right? Well, this morning I woke up late. So normally I'm up 5:36. I woke up at 7, and I woke up and I was trying to get her up and she was like a zombie, right? So I was like, okay, do you want to keep sleeping? Like, what do you want to do? She was like, yeah, I want to keep sleeping. So then I got up and it really threw my whole morning off, right? Because now I had to actually make all these new decisions about what I was going to do with this time. And if you've ever had that experience, you kind of like flounder around a bit. Has anyone had that where you're like, all of a sudden something's not the same and you're just like, okay, what am I doing? I'm scrolling on my phone. I'm sitting there at the table. I'm like, I lost track of time. I got in the shower late, like all these things, right? All these little decisions that now needed to be made versus the standard decision of up at 5:30. I get up at 5:30, I make my coffee, I take the dogs out, I do my planning for the day. 7 o'clock, I wake her up, we spend 2 hours together. 9 a.m., I'm at my desk and I'm just flat out, right? And these little micro decisions can happen a lot if we don't create routines and processes in our business and we allow ourselves to just kind of putter around with time. So what I really try to do is create a lot of processes, a lot of routines that then allow me to create the freedoms for making the bigger decisions in my business and in my life. And I find that when I start a day like this, I really have to be very diligent about my calendar afterwards, because I'll tend to forget things throughout the day. And it's just simply because I'm completely off routine, right? So now I'm off routine and it could be like, okay, it's 10 a.m. and I have an appointment with somebody, but I'm not on time, right? Because now if we look at it, what happens? I didn't get my walk in, right? So I'm going to have to fit that in somewhere else during the day. Trinity doesn't have a plan for the day. So I'm going to have to stop at some point and we're going to have to reconnect on her plan. The dog hasn't been out, so he's kind of pissed off at me. And I mean, like he's been out, of course, like to, go to the bathroom and stuff, but he didn't go for his walk and get to chase the ball and like do all the other things that we do in the morning. And myself, I feel like just a sense of unrest, right? Sense of like not in the same, like, let's go get them mode that I would normally be in on a Monday morning. So where did that actually come in from? So here's the real thing. It came in from me asking the question, do you want to sleep more? Do you not? Because that shouldn't have even been a question, right? That should not have even been a question, because the decision was already made. The decision was already made. We made that decision weeks ago that this is the routine that we were going to have. But I entered in an arbitrary. I entered in a question and a new decision. And of course, what is any 10, almost 11-year-old girl going to say when you ask her if she wants to sleep more in the morning? Of course, she's going to say yes, right? I already knew the answer, as Stuart said. I already knew the answer. So why, and I think really where that came from was I got up late. So I woke up late and then I was like, wait a second, I haven't had my morning time. So maybe I can just ask her if she wants to sleep more and then I'll take this morning time, right? And that kind of threw off the entire day. So having a high level of responsibility around our own decisions and having those decisions stick for us. Yeah, maybe I was looking for an out. That could definitely be, right? Because I woke up late, and I don't know how I woke up late. I think I turned my alarm off. Which could be, I mean, now I'm going to have a backup alarm. But last night was one of those, to my defense, last night was one of those amazing nights where it got down to like the 50s, and we had the windows open and we had the big down comforter on, and we were like, oh, cozy with the dog and the kid. And, so I think I didn't want to get up out of bed either. Right. But when we do that, then we have to also look at it and be like, okay, where's my mistake? Like, where can I have a higher level of responsibility and really honor the decisions that I'm making about how I operate in my business and in my life? And when we have those consistencies in business and life, and we don't have all those little micro decisions, it makes life so much easier. So, for example, with diet, right? Like, it's way easier for me to eat consistently if I eat the same things a lot. It's harder for me if there's a lot of variety. If there's a lot of variety around, then there's too many decisions to make, right? Too many decisions to make. But if I'm eating eggs and bacon and toast in the morning, and then I'm having a salad with chicken in the afternoon, and it's the same thing every day, then it's easy for me to make those decisions, right? And then maybe Friday night, go out and look at a menu and have all those, have all those options or whatever. But it takes the speed out of it, right? Like, how many times have we sat in a car with our significant other and been like, hey, what do you want to eat? And they're like, I don't know. What do you want to eat? And I don't know, right? So it's like, and you go back and forth, and maybe we're like, right? And I saw a genius, video the other day where a guy said, this is how you get your significant other to make a decision about what they want to eat. And you say, let me guess what you want to eat. And then you just pick something Mexican, and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I want. Right. And why is that? It's because somebody already made a decision, and decision making is so attractive that people automatically go into agreement with it. Right. Because then they don't have to think about it. They don't have to think if they want sushi or Italian or any other, amazing variety of food that could be out there, on any given day. And I think back years ago when I was 22, I went on an Earthwatch study. I was in the rainforest of Brunei. And when you're on a study like that, there's no options. Like, the only options that we had for breakfast were rice and fish or bread and peanut butter. Like, that was it. You could have the rice and the fish or the bread and the peanut butter. And there wasn't, it wasn't like there was a grocery store in the middle of the rainforest. That's basically what there was. They had a big bag of rice, and they caught the fish, and they had some jars of peanut butter and some loaves of bread. And that was it. Right. And it made it so easy. And it also made breakfast super fast, because we would get up and breakfast took like 10 minutes. I slapped some peanut butter on a piece of bread, and that was my breakfast. And some days I, scooped out some fish with the rice, and that was my breakfast. So it also took the time out of it. Instead of like 15 minutes to make a decision about what we're going to eat, 30 minutes to cook it, 30 minutes to eat it. Before you know it, an hour and a half has gone into just breakfast. So having those little micro decisions kind of made early in the week are super easy. So that's where planning comes into place. So if we have our planner and we're actually scheduled to do things on our planner, and we commit to following what the plan is, then it makes our days and our weeks and our hours a lot easier. And it also really reduces a lot of the stress, right? So that stress that comes from having to make all those little decisions all day long can sometimes be overwhelming, right? It can be daunting. The same thing if you're doing any type of marketing, if you're doing social media marketing, if you sit down and you plan out what you're going to post every day, and you do it in one chunk, and then you just get those posts made and scheduled, then you don't have to think about it. And then it's not a daily decision, right? It's not, what do I post about today? or it's not on Wednesday regretting that you didn't post something yesterday, right? So having that plan, making those decisions all at once and then sticking with the plan definitely makes it a lot easier for you in the long run. A lot less stress. So I'd love to hear from you guys. I saw you guys posting in here. Yeah, manufacturing consent. I love that. So what is your best advice to get back on track? So really, one is to objectively look at what occurred, right? So when I was like frantically moving around this morning, I was like, okay, let's just look at what occurred here, and to take responsibility where you can take responsibility. So my responsibility right off of the bat was asking, do you want to go back to sleep? And also not getting up on time, right? Which kind of was like a flow over from last night. We went to bed too late and it just kind of all, caught up, right? So went to bed too late, woke up late, asked my kid if she wanted to stay in bed, and now we're playing catch up, right? So one is to just look at that, because if you can like find where you can have more responsibility in it, then you can make those fixes, right? I mean, I could say, oh, it's my daughter's fault because she didn't want to get out of bed, but that doesn't really give me any answer, because I can't really make her, do it differently when I'm the one who asked the question. So I'm always looking for where I was at fault, because then I can fix it, right? Like if I, I don't know, if I was wood whittling and I whittled too much wood off, I could look at it and be like, whoops, don't do that next time. So that's the first thing. The second thing then is, once you like look at where you are at fault, just don't get too deep or heavy about it and invalidate yourself or beat yourself up over it, because we're human beings and we make a gazillion mistakes through this lifetime. And those mistakes are what help us to correct and to grow. And everything we've ever done in life, from when we were little, teeny tiny baby, evolved around us making mistakes and learning how to adapt. You just have to watch a baby learn how to crawl or walk to really understand that, right? They don't like instantly one day, they're like all of a sudden a track runner. It's like they have to fall over, hit a couple of things, and then they learn how to self-correct. And sometimes as adults, it's like we make a mistake and all of a sudden it's like we feel like we're such a piece of crap, and it's like, whatever, we make mistakes. So we look at the mistake and then we commit to not doing that again, right? And just look at it and be like, okay, made this mistake. That obviously didn't work. So let me get back on course and just commit to doing this correctly. Right. If it's her fault, then I don't have any control or ability to change it. Plus she doesn't have any control or ability to feel better about it either, because I'm the one who let her sleep. Right. So it would make her wrong about something that she truly isn't wrong about. And so that's really what I do, is just look, and I'm like, okay, so tonight we're going to bed on time. Tomorrow I'm getting up on time. And tomorrow, 7 a.m., it's out of bed, go for a walk, go to the park, plan our day, like do the things we want to do. Because I also don't want to miss out on this time with her, right? It's like a great time that we have in the morning to kind of create our day together. So that's the other thing, right? Good. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Thoughts on this?
I just know that, excuse me, in my job before I retired, I had a set thing, scheduled for the day as it went. And even when the students would come in, there were set things that we had to do at certain times. But I found I also had to be flexible, and things would pop up and I would have to change something in that schedule. And I wasn't always able to make up the time, but that change that I made was for the better. So I think, sometimes change is good. Even the unexpected is good. that's how it was for me anyway.
Definitely. Change can definitely be good. And I think in those cases, you made the decision to create the change, right? So
Yeah.
you were operating from a positive set of data, right, on what was going to be the best outcome coming there,
Yeah.
right? So for sure, that's awesome. Good. Anyone else want to pop out here? Oh, Stuart, here's your hand.
Pop out. The blessing and the curse of the home office, right? And,
Seriously.
right, the concept of how wonderful it is that I can make my own decisions and plan my course for the day or whatever, but then like you're talking about, then it's just wide open, it's all you. You could work 24/7 or 25/7, or you could totally blow off whatever it is. So I mean, there's something very very cool and very personal, and in terms of responsibility about, you know, charting your own course and being an entrepreneur and working from home and all those things. And yet I think what you're alluding to is, you know, especially when you have multiple businesses and you wear different hats throughout the course of the day, right? There's a lot of personal responsibility involved in all that. And sometimes I think it's easy to get overwhelmed, or like you're saying, you get thrown off your game, or thrown off of your routine by just one decision. Very interesting micro decisions. I like that concept. You know, for me as an outfitter, as a wilderness guide, as somebody who leads people in the wilderness, right? There's a framework of definitives that I'm going to do throughout the day. Sorry about that. Hold on. See if I can get it to be quiet. Sorry. And yet, you know, the concept of being out in nature is essentially an unscripted experience. And so at any given moment, I might have decisions to make that I didn't even know were coming down the pipeline at any given moment, right? So I feel like for me in my situation, my experience, very interesting line to walk between, okay, I'm leading this tour, I have this group of people, I have the animals, there's sort of, like I said, all these sort of givens about what that experience is going to be throughout the day for the guests, for the client, but also for myself. And yeah, and it's really thinking on your feet in turn. And I think that that's true just, you know, when you're an entrepreneur in general, that, you know, you sort of plan your day, you can script it out, you can calendar it out, schedule it out. And yet at any given moment, right, the phone's going to ring with some emergency or some curveball or whatever it is, right? And so that balance between, you know, sticking to a schedule, but also, you know, reaching for the curveball or whatever it is, right? So I think that's an interesting balance that we need to find as entrepreneurs. I liked how you talked about habits and routines, right? And of course, tonight we'll be going over the first three chapters of Atomic Habits and book study. And so, you know, a lot of what you're talking about really rung true. And if anybody's been reading Atomic Habits, yeah, the concept of, you know, little changes that you make that on a daily basis that compound over time and can have explosive results, let's say. You reminded me of something that John used to talk about his clothes with his black shirt and whatever, right? And so for me, you know, Leah used to tease me and still does. Now it's scrubs and you know, outdoor shirts, but you know, I pretty much have, you know, a closet full of the same stuff with maybe a couple of different color variations, right? So it was very easy for me to get up in the morning. I didn't have to think about what I was gonna wear. It was essentially the same kind of thing that I wore yesterday, my cargos and some sort of expedition shirt and my llama hat, you know, my cowboy hat, and that was pretty much, you know, it. So I think that it's nice when you can put certain things on autopilot. You were talking about your experience with breakfast, and it reminded me of my trip to Costa Rica with my family a few years ago, and they used to joke, is like, today, you know, rice and beans, right? Tomorrow, beans and rice, right? And switch it up like every day. I thought that was funny. And yeah, I think, you know, when you're wearing multiple hats over the course of a day, I mean, you're talking about multiple businesses, family. For us, it's those things, ranch, relationship, all this kind of stuff that, yeah, sometimes, you know, it can be, it can throw you off even to just change hats or change roles when you weren't quite in the headspace to do so, right? And I think maybe that's a little bit of the whoa moment. And then you mentioned something about, you know, you guys did things backwards as a relationship and moved out to Arizona and bought a house and all that stuff. Leah and I, you know, I was a single dad when I met Leah. I had a 4-year-old toddler strapped to my back when I met Leah, and God bless her, you know, she adopted my little older one. And then a couple of years went by and we had our own kid together. And we were together for like 13 years with kids and a life and a business and everything before we decided to get married. And my mother-in-law, my Sicilian mother-in-law would say to me, she used to call me her sin-in-law. And it was always about, where's the ring, and all this kind of stuff. And at a certain point, you know, we took that leap and we did that. We just celebrated our 11th anniversary, but we've been together for like 26 years, right? So it's very interesting. I appreciated your sharing that. Anyway, nice to see your voice. Nice to see your face, hear your voice, see all you guys. Well done. Happy Monday.
I love it. So, you know, my mother-in-law is also Italian. So, and John and I have been together now, let's see, it'll be 24 years in December. So long time. And, right. And the same thing, you know, I was literally like the Antichrist to an Italian mother-in-law. You know, I wanted to live together first. Then I took him from New Jersey to Arizona. Then we bought a house, you know, then I didn't want to get married in the Catholic Church. I wanted to have an outdoor wedding. And not that I was against getting married in the church. I just wanted to have an outdoor wedding. We live in Arizona. It's spectacular here. You know, I wanted the mountains and everything. And it took a lot for her to wrap her mind around it. And now she lives in Arizona. You know, she loves me. She loves her granddaughter. You know, it's all good. But you know what, the point that you brought up is really important. And that is about being able to adapt and being free to make those decisions. And throughout your day in business, you're going to have to make decisions and you're going to have to adapt, which is why like having the foundation of how you operate, being consistent, kind of frees you up from having to make so many decisions in a day. Right. So then your brain power, your effort is going into those major decisions that allow you to navigate the course of your business. And, you know, sometimes I think just even little decisions like, should I make the bed or not make the bed? Or, you know, like those are things that are just, you know, they should be standard kind of rote ways of operating, because then you have a consistency to your life that allows you to then navigate that course. You know, like if you were on a trail, like your decision is, I'm going to go take this trail, right? Like, you know, the trail, you've mapped the path, but of course, if some boulders have fallen on that trail, you're going to have to adjust. And you're going to have to make those adjustments. But the first decision of like, this is the trail I'm going to take versus I don't know, should we take this trail or that trail or this trail or that trail? And sometimes I see that in business and it creates like a breakdown in expectations. Like let's say you take one trail that's very scenic and people write reviews about it. And they're like, the views were amazing on this trail. And then all of a sudden you're switching it up and it's not as scenic. People aren't getting what they expect. Right. So it's also, you know, when we do things online, especially in online business, having our message be very consistent is also important, and not switching things up too much. And I'll give you an example of this. I have a coaching client who I had recommended to a software provider, and she invested quite a bit in getting her account set up and everything. And the software provider decided to change the entire look and feel of the platform without letting anybody know. And she logged in one day and she was like, I don't even know how to use this, anymore. And then she didn't want to be a customer with that person anymore. And the person who runs the software company was very upset about it. And she's like, well, we have the right to change things. And the customer was like, well, I have the right to expect consistency, right? I have the right to expect to not have this like thrown in my lap where now I don't know what to do. And even on Amazon, like when you're selling on Amazon, if you make a change to your product, and I've personally experienced this where I've ordered a product and the reseller has made a change, but they didn't update their photos, then what I got was different than what I ordered or expected. And now I'm stuck in the place of like, I don't really want to harm this person's business by doing a return, but at the same time, it's not what I ordered. So then I communicate with them and I'm like, hey, this isn't what I ordered. Most of the time, the vendors are like, oh my gosh, we'll send you what you did order, or we'll refund you or whatever. But some of them are like, well, we just didn't have time to change the pictures. So what? And in that case, you're like, okay, I'm kind of the customer here. So changes too, like when when we're a business owner, not only do we thrive on consistency in our own business, but our customers thrive on the consistency that we provide to them, right? Which is one of the reasons I love to order your bath bombs, Stuart, because every time I send them to someone, they go crazy about them, right? And that's actually led to more orders for you because now I have clients who order your bath bombs to send to their clients, right? And it's like, but it's that consistency. That's right. But I mean, it's not like I'm doing you a favor. They're truly awesome, and when I send gifts to my clients, I want to send them something that's unique and awesome and made here. And, it fits the bill, I should say. Okay. Anyone else want to pop out here? This is a great discussion.
Well, Shannon.
Hey, Janet.
So I want to thank you, first of all, for coming on and being here for John. That's very sweet of you and very giving. So I'm sorry I popped on a little bit late, but I'm wondering, because, you talked to us about your calendar and how if something changes, how you change your calendar. And I'm thinking, well, is there at some point in your morning that you say, okay, well, this is different because, there was some decisions made that were different, but now I have X amount of hours left that I can get back in, I can jump back in. I can say, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to start to do my day the way it was planned, or I want to, I'm going to move some things around. So, to get back on track, that was kind of part of my question.
Yes.
You don't want the whole day to be spontaneous now, right?
Well, yeah. And my day can't be spontaneous because my calendar is like full of appointments, right? So my day is, I have a 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, an 11:45, a 1 o'clock, a 2:30, so basically what I did was right before this call, I just sat down and I said, okay, reset. Let's look at my day and what's going to fit in here. Right. So, and that's exactly right, because my day can't be arbitrary. That's not how my business runs. It's extremely busy. So I guess would that make sense?
Right. That's, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, when I asked the question about, getting back on track. And I think it's like, okay, this bit is different than I planned, but at some point I get back in my calendar and I say, okay, start, go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about, having a busy or successful business too, is that, you know, my calendar, and the reason that I do the balance my calendar the way that I do is because my business is so demanding. Right. So if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't have time for my family. I wouldn't have time for myself. I wouldn't have time for John. Right. Because I could just work all day. And by sitting down and saying, okay, now this is what I'm looking at, you know, fortunately, these calls I don't have to do a lot of preparation for. Otherwise, I would like really be screwed. So, and I would have to kind of reset at the end of the day. But with everyone that I'm meeting with today, I'm already prepped. So, you know, but looking at it, I can just see for myself, giving up that time that I normally take in my morning to start my day right, puts me in a different space.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
worry about you and John being out walking, and then, you know, from his point of view, he's exercising, he's doing something so that he has built in. And I think the thing that helps us is some of that stuff we want to do, but we make it a habit so that we don't have to think about it each time and make that decision each time.
That's right.
Very
You
helpful.
develop consistent habits.
Right. And
Yeah.
I was thinking of a friend of mine who ran a business supporting event people, you know, event planners. And she did things like, you know, all of her sheets were white. She didn't want to ever have to make a decision that these colors go together when I'm remaking the bed, that this something else. You know, she did a lot of basic things in basic ways because she wanted to put her energy somewhere else, you know.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. Okay, guys. Well, oh, and Stuart said if we look at our day in blocks, then if we lose or improve for one block of the day, it's easier to regroup, reset, and get back on track. Yes, I'm very much a block planner. So I 100% agree with that. Okay, guys. Well, tonight is Atomic Habits on the book club. So this was like a great prelude into that. And John will be there with you for that. So pop on there, and then I'll be back with you Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon for Brand Builder. So have a great day, everyone. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.